Okay, good morning. So we're starting a new simon today. Simon Reish Memches, very interesting simon. Din hamaflik besvina, someone who wants to set sail. There are restrictions. Chazal say that you can't set sail, you shouldn't set sail 3 days before Shabbos. And we'll see the reasons. Let's do the Hakdama first. Says the Mishnah Berurah, he's got a whole Hakdama here. Let's do that before we throw ourselves into the Mechaba. Hine, Kaidem shenichnes bebir divrei hashulchan aruch. Before, says the Mishnah Berurah in his Hakdama to Reish Memches, before we go through, we explore the words of the Shulchan Aruch, Natik Loshen HaBraisa, Hanema Bezeh B'Gemara Daf Yotes, Amud Aleph. Let's go and recite and look into the Braisa that the Gemara in Shabbos Yotes Amud Aleph brings. Ton Rabbona. Ein mafligim b'sfina pachas mit gimel yomim kodim the Shabbos. You can't set sail 3 days before Shabbos. Ba'med Ramamurim, when is that true? L'dvar harishus, says the Gemara. You can't set sail 3 days before Shabbos if it's an optional, voluntary type of trip. Mitzvah, but if it's a mitzvah trip, shapir domi. And Rabbi says that you should try and stipulate with the captain of the ship that he stops and rests on Shabbos. And if he doesn't keep to that and he sails on Shabbos, that's not your problem. You don't have to stipulate for him to stop, to dock before Shabbos. And a very short trip, for example, says the Gemara, from Tzur to Tzidon, which is only a day's voyage, I feel about Shabbos mutter. It's perhaps a few hours. That would be allowed even on a Friday. Ad kan loshna braisa. V'hinei har betom nemru al zeh b'poiskim. Many reasons are given for this in the poiskim. Why is it that you're not allowed to sail on a Friday? Why did Chazal institute this rule? 3 days before Shabbos. Yesh omer matam shemi yitztorech ha'yisrael lasis melacha ba'atzma b'Shabbos mishum pikuach nefesh. If you're setting sail within the sort of the build up to Shabbos, 3 days before Shabbos, you may well come to be involved in pikuach nefesh sort of situations, because you're going on an ocean voyage, you're going across the seas, and that could involve danger, and then you're putting yourself in a situation where you may have to break Shabbos. So therefore, don't do that. 3 days before Shabbos, the Chazal will go there. Or the non-Jewish person will do some melacha for you, which is also problematic. He'll start whatever the melacha were, tying knots and things like that. Another reason given is because of tchumen. You're not allowed to go beyond the tchum on Shabbos, and that might apply in boats. We'll discuss that in more detail, because really the tchum is only if it's you're in the deep sea, there's no problem. So if you set sail on a Tuesday, for example, earlier in the week, and you're sailing on a cruise on Shabbos, that's not a problem. There's no problem of tchumen, even if you're sailing for quite a long distance, because you're more than 10 amas above the ground level. The water is way higher than that in the ocean. But we'll see more details. There's an interesting share to give on cruises in halacha. Maybe we'll talk about it if there's time at the end. Okay, so far we've seen various reasons why Chazal made the rule of ein mafligim b'sfina pachas migimel yom Shabbos, that you can't set sail within 3 days of Shabbos. By the way, we'll see later, it's machlokas whether that's Wednesday or Thursday. Does that mean, is it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Or is Shabbos included in it? Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. That's machlokas, the Gon, and I think the Mogan of Ram. That's coming soon. But either way, Chazal made a rule, within 3 days of Shabbos you can't set sail. So far the reasons are that you may come to do melacha because of pikuach nefesh, or get a non-Jewish person to do melacha for you, or there's a problem of tchumin. And then now we're saying, this is the reason which the Mechab is going to give, the Rif says, no, if that was the problem of tchumin or melacha, then that would have been prohibited even before 3 days. For gamle dvar mitzvah and therefore would there be no exception for dvar mitzvah either. You're going to disturb your Einik Shabbos. You're going to be so seasick that you won't be able to enjoy your Shabbos and your Shabbos meals and things like that. So Kol Shleish Yom Rishonim Yesh Lehem Tzaf. For the first 3 days on a voyage, you're going to be seasick. Machmas Nenua Asfina, because of the shaking of the boat. Shegufa Mishtaba, your whole body is sort of breaking. We're thinking perhaps sort of nice ocean line cruises. Just go back in the days of Chazal, sea voyages were far from that. You're being thrown around like a drunkard. Plus you've got the very salty aroma of the sea. It takes 3 days to recover from that. Oh yeah, or to get used to it, yeah. It's true. Of sea face. Others say the reason is the hatam. It's as if you're swimming on Shabbos. Swimming on Shabbos is also fair according to everybody. You might come to make a raft. But before 3 days, that would be okay. If you're setting sail more than 3 days before Shabbos, there's a heka. It's clearly recognizable that you're not doing this l'shem Shabbos. And therefore, no one's concerned that you may come to make a raft on Shabbos because you're setting sail way before Shabbos. No one's going to think about that. For those who say the reason is because of melacha or tchumin, the reason why they differentiate, that's the Rif's kasha. Why, if it's also because of tchumin and melacha, then what's 3 days got to do with it? So the reason, their explanation is mishum de shlosh yom kodim Shabbos mikri kamel Shabbos, because for 3 days in the build up to Shabbos, it's connected to that coming Shabbos. V'chal alov lizoy shloyov l'dechil Shabbos, and therefore it's incumbent upon a person within the sort of the proximity of Shabbos not to be involved in any chil Shabbos, not to do anything which could cause chil Shabbos. But prior to 3 days before Shabbos, mikri bosa Shabbos she'ovar, that goes after the previous Shabbos. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is connected to the previous Shabbos. You can make Havdalah till Tuesday. Adayin lechal olav asar Shabbos haba. No one's worried about the following Shabbos v'shori lahaflik bohem, and therefore you would be allowed to set sail according to those reasons. V'oz af im yitzarech achakach lovel dechil Shabbos mishum pekuach nefesh shori. And okay, and if you therefore set sail on the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then come Shabbos, you've got to do pekuach nefesh situations. Okay, that's life. So be it. V'hinei hamachaba. The mechaba af shenimshach b'sif beis achar rif, even though the mechaba in sif beis follows the view of the rif that it's all to do with disturbing your enik Shabbos, shehetzik pirusha mikol mokum gam hu svirlei ka poiskim dekodim shleish yom mishari. He agrees that 3 days before, more than 3 days before Shabbos is permitted. Even though it might end up that you'll end up doing melacha on Shabbos in that situation. Or even if there's no shaila of tchumin or melacha, for example, it's only manned by non-Jewish staff, and therefore any melacha that is being done is doing for their benefit. And also we could be talking about water which is deeper than 10 tfachim, and therefore there's no problem of tchumin. And therefore, within 3 days of Shabbos, like we said, it's going to disturb your Enik Shabbos, and therefore the Rif would say that would be the problem. Now, with that Hakdama, we can understand the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, let's now read the Mechaber. Mutter lahaflik besvina afilu be'erev Shabbos im heilich ledvar mitzvah. So we start off with a positive. If it's ledvar mitzvah, you're allowed to set sail even on erev Shabbos. Or paisik imay sheyishbais, you try and stipulate with the captain that he rests, he doesn't actually travel on Shabbos itself. But if he decides not to and he carries on sailing on Shabbos, ein bekach klum. But to go on a voluntary type of trip, ein mafligim besfina pachas mishleish yom kodim Shabbos. You don't set sail within 3 days of Shabbos. Says the Ramah, avol kodim shleish yom mishari afilu besfina shemoishchim oisal day behemus. But within 3 days, says the Ramah, you're allowed to go on a ship which is being pulled by animals. Imagine you've got animals, oxen or whatever, on the bank of the river, and they're connected with ropes and things like that, and they're walking and they're schlepping the ship along. That would be okay. Even if the height of the water is not 10 tvachim, even though they may involve chil Shabbos later, that would be okay. If the actual voyage is very short, from place A to place B, 2 places in Eretz Yisrael, I think. Tzar and Sidon, is that Bovel? Okay, either way, the 2 places which are near each other, I'm not entirely sure. She'ein beineihem ki im halach yom echad, where there's only a distance of a day's travel in between. Mutar lahaflik be'erev Shabbos b'boker. You can set sail on Friday morning because it's possible to arrive before Shabbos. And there, that minhag where there is not to set sail at all on erev Shabbos, afilu derech muat ein mafligin. Even a small voyage should be avoided. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Aleph. So afilu be'erev Shabbos. So this is going on the sail ledvar mitzvah. So to set sail, mutar lahaflik b'sfina afilu be'erev Shabbos im holech ledvar mitzvah. So setting sail on erev Shabbos, or even on erev Shabbos, but in the build up to Shabbos, that is mutar vis ledvar mitzvah. Hainu. After bevadai lo hoyekayim onik Shabbos alidei. True, it's going to disturb your onik Shabbos. K'moshe kosav ha'machab b'sif beis. That's the riff. Afilu hachi muta, kim de letzorech mitzvahu, v'kaim lon da'isuk mitzvah potem en mitzvah. So you're going to go to the Roman authorities to plead the case of the Jewish people, or to pigeon shavuim, whatever it is. It's going to disturb your onik Shabbos, potem en mitzvah, isuk mitzvah potem en mitzvah. V'lo meboim hasfina leches b'makom shamayim amukim, yosim asar tfachim demuta. Not only are we talking about where the water is deep and more than 10 tfachim, which is not very much, by the way, the height of this table, and therefore there will be no chashash of tchum. To kaimelon ein tchum l'mayla me'asar tfachim. If you're higher than 10 tfachim from the ground level, there's no problem of tchum. Afilu yesh mekoyim shamayim muatzim pachas me'asar tfachim gam kein mutar l'tzeis be'erev Shabbos v'sfina kimin shul l'dvar mitzvah. Even where there would be a tchum problem, i.e. you're within 10 tfachim, it's very shallow water. If you're going l'dvar mitzvah, that would be okay. Because remember, this is all Gezeirah's Drabonon, and b'makom mitzvah lo yigazru. Okay, and then we quoted the brisa that Rebbe's shitta was that you should be paisik imay. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Beis, Kosav HaMagen Avraham, to b'Shabbos osa lahaflik afilu dvar mitzvah. On Shabbos itself, you should not sail even for a dvar mitzvah. To halo yuchel lifsoik imay sheyishbes v'lo yelech. Because if you're traveling on Shabbos, you can't say to get on the boat and say, okay, please don't travel on Shabbos, because he's not going to listen to you. Others actually opine that on Shabbos itself, if you're going to Dvar Mitzvah, that's actually okay. Okay. And then we said, you try and stipulate with him that he stops on Shabbos. Bein imhu mafli be'erev Shabbos bein mekodim. Whether you travel on Friday or even before, you should try and stipulate. Kiven shehu toich gimel yom ha'samach l'Shabbos. B'sefer l'Shabbos nistapek im ef shlo lisbek. What the sefer Eile Shabbos is mistapek. He's uncertain whether, if it's impossible to be posek, i.e. the guy tells you, I'm not stopping, I'm sailing on Shabbos. If you know for certain he's not going to stop, is that a deal breaker? And therefore, if he tells you, I'm not listening to you, I'm sailing on Shabbos, then according to most achronim, that is not a deal breaker and it's not ma'akev. Okay, pachas mishleisha yomim. Now, what does that mean? How do you define 3 days? Hainu b'yoim revi b'Shabbos, i.e. Wednesday. Also, that's already included because the 3 days are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's the Mogen Avon b'shem harbe achronim. Aval hagra hevi b'shem harbe rishonim. Tahashlosh yomim nechshavim im haShabbos. You actually include Shabbos. Gufo to be Yom Revi mutter, and therefore setting sail. The nafkamin, of course, would be setting sail on Wednesday, and according to the Gan, that's mutter because it's only Thursday, Friday, Shabbos that's the problem. V'ayin sham shekosov shekein mukach b'tosefta of Yerushalmi. If you take a look at number 9, which is on the next page, he gives a very interesting hezbollah to the machlokas. The Mogen Avram says that 3 days you can't set sail before Shabbos. 3 days. Says the Mogen Avram Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Says the Gon Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. What's the machlokas? So if you look at number 9, which is on the bottom of the previous page, of the next page, yeah, you got it. But bir machlokusam kozva prima godim. So the prima godim explains the machlokas, the Mogen Avram and the Gon. Shenechleku lefi hatam she'isa haflogu mishum einik Shabbos. They're arguing about the reason is because of Einik Shabbos. Ha'im tzorich shekol haShabbos tziyeh b'einik is pshat that the entire Shabbos you've got to enjoy Einik Shabbos. Klal tchila Shabbos, that includes the outset of Shabbos. V'lekach b'yom revi also lahaflig. That's the Mogen Avram Svara. I've got to enjoy Einik Shabbos on the whole of Shabbos, and therefore Wednesday, Thursday, Friday I can't set sail, because if I set sail on Wednesday, then that will eat into my Einik Shabbos. Oishema or so long as I have a bit of Shabbos, which is I can enjoy, that would be okay. If I set sail on Wednesday morning and I arrive Shabbos morning, I set sail on Wednesday morning, and therefore by Shabbos morning I've recovered, I've got used to the smell of the sea and the seasickness and the shakiness of the boat, and I can enjoy a nice Shabbos lunch, then I'm okay. The Tiskayim is Einik Shabbos b'Seif Shabbos. So that's the machlokas. Do you need to have Einik Shabbos the whole of Shabbos or only parts of it? Okay, that's the Prima Godim. Let's go back to the Mishnah Berurah. Sif Cotton Hay. Is that right? Yeah, Sif Cotton Hay. So Kodim Shabbos. So this is now going on. This is still the Mechaber, yeah. So Lidvar Rishus Ein Mafligim B'Sfina Pachas Mishleish Yomim Kodim Shabbos. Vuadin, interestingly enough, Kodim Yontov. It's true as well for Yontov. The Yontov for Shabbos Shovin v'chein b'Yontov Sheni ein mafligin. Okay, so no cruises on 2 days on a second. Well, that's not true. Cruises are pretty much okay. You've got to just know. We'll discuss maybe in a few minutes. But the point is that this rule of 3 days before Shabbos applies to Yontov and even Yontov Sheni. So therefore, for example, Baruch Hashem, it's Erev Shavuos, right? So let's say Yontov today is Tuesday, so Wednesday, Thursday. So that means setting sail even on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It'll be this machlokas with the gun and the so that. But you include Yontov Sheni in your reckoning. Okay. Afilu b'Sfina says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Vav.
Only Shabbos.
Yeah, but I suppose we're choshesh for the other reasons as well. Yeah, but that's Simchas Yontov, I suppose. Yeah, but if true. But if you have your meat and wine, you're not going to enjoy your meat and wine if. Yeah. Okay. Says the Ramah. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Vav. You could argue that if your boat is being schlepped by these animals on the side of the bank of the river or the sea, also lissa b'Shabbos, because it's no different to it's like going in a carriage. The also lissa b'Shabbos, you can't go on a carriage on Shabbos. Even if you sat on the carriage for 3 days before Shabbos. In rivers, it's quite common to pull the boats by way of animals. That would be mutter. Because of the other boats that we've mentioned. Zayin, afidu ein begoiva. So even if the water is not 10 tefachim deep, the hava amina, the also mishum tchumin. I might have thought the problem is one of tchumin. Kamash melon delay. The problem is not tchumin, and vatam kiven shehischach kodim shleish yom or kamesh kosu lekame. I.e., since you started more than 3 days before, then even if you're being schlepped on a boat by animals, that would be okay. And we said, we said last says ach kach melocha, that would be okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotzen Ches hatam k'moshe kosavnu l'mayla the shlosh yom k'edim Shabbos shayachon l'Shabbos haba. Within 3 days of Shabbos, it's connected to the coming Shabbos. V'chal alov lizoy shlo yav l'chil Shabbos, and therefore you've got to be wary to avoid potential chil Shabbos in the coming Shabbos. And therefore, if you embark within 3 days of Shabbos, it's as if you've stipulated that I'm going to Michal Shabbos, which of course you can't do. But if it's before 3 days before Shabbos, Shayoch and the Shabbos She'ova, therefore those days relate to the previous Shabbos. Since you set off Beheta, there's no problem. If something happens where you have sakana, then ein kan chil, that's not considered chil Shabbos. Okay, and then the Ramah finished off and said, "Lasos achakach melocha b'Shabbos." Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotten Tes, "Hainu de'ein lo limnoa machmazeh mileishev b'sfina kimin shu k'edim shlosh yomim." Even if you might end up with a pikuach nefesh or chil Shabbos scenario, so long as you set off before 3 days before Shabbos, you're okay. Whatever you can do to minimize the chil Shabbos, of course you should do. Certainly, if you're in a situation where you have to be mechal Shabbos, certainly there's no pikuach nefesh situation. But either way, you should minimize the chil Shabbos. Sif Kotzen Yud, but Golker. So this is going on the Ramah. And we said that if it's a very short voyage, even on Erev Shabbos, Golker, even on Friday morning is okay. It's going on the Mechaber, even on Erev Shabbos, for a short voyage it's mutter. Also, that if you're going to prolong, to lo yagia l'sham kedem Shabbos, but if you're worried, it all depends on the voyage. If it's a short voyage, then the chayr will be okay. And if you're going to be delayed, then lo yagia kedem Shabbos. That's the concern. Mipnei she'efsha, says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotzen Yud Aleph, because a short voyage is mipnei she'efsha lahagia by before Shabbos. Rotzalema, kashiyesh ruach toiv holchem b'yemechad. You've got good wind, which is going to help you sail. Lochein shori lahalach be'erev Shabbos. Therefore, be mutter to set sail on erev Shabbos. Lefi she'efsha sheyeh ruach toiv. Okay, just very briefly, cruises on Shabbos. Maybe we'll talk about it more on next time. But the Ma'aseh, you're allowed to go on a cruise on Shabbos, but you should try and set sail beforehand. The Ma'aseh, most cruises nowadays are either river cruises or ocean cruises. They're very, very stable, and there's no there's no concerns. But lo plug rabbanon. But the truth is, most ships on a frum cruise will dock before Shabbos, and therefore they'll sail throughout the week. They'll pull up on Erev Shabbos, they'll dock, and therefore it's as if you're in a house, and therefore it's not a problem. Then you can get off the boat. It's like stationary, it's tied to the thing, and therefore it's not really a problem. There are other issues of going on a boat on Shabbos. Kashrus is a major issue. The things like that. Maybe we'll talk about it next time. But it's definitely very doable. But you've got to know some of the issues. That's all. Kashrus is just when you're on a cruise and you contain where is the food coming from. Just like any situation, any other. Okay, but say that. All right, let's leave it there.